Hi guys, the next thing I want to talk about is how to solve a quadratic equation with what we call the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula can be used with any type of quadratic equation. So far we've looked at we can use square roots to solve a quadratic equation. Remember, we want to use square roots if we have ax squared and c. So this middle term here is missing. That would be when we would want to use square root, so we have just the ax squared and just the c. We talked about how we can use factoring if it is in a form when we can factor it, so maybe by taking out a GCF, maybe by using a special formula, maybe by using a factor sum table. Well, the problem is that not all quadratic equations are factorable, so what do we do if equation is either A, not factorable, or B, an equation we really don't want to factor? If you think about back when we did our factoring and we had things with that a out front where that a wasn't 1, and we had to go through that really long process to do the factoring where we had to do factors of the first times the last with the sum of the middle. Once we found those, we used them to break up our middle term. Then we went through the factoring by grouping process, and it ended up being a very long process to factor. Because of that, we have something, as I was saying, called the quadratic formula. So even though it can be used for any type of quadratic equations, we're going to focus on using it when either A, we don't want do the factoring, or B, we know that it can't be factored. The quadratic formula, which you will be responsible for remembering, is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. We will view a couple videos in class to help you memorize this better. One of them being, as you can see here, we have this link here for a quadratic formula song, so we will watch that in class so you can hear that. It's helped a lot of students in the past. But just a couple things before I move on to actually going through some solving examples. Just like before, just like when we used factoring to solve, we do need to first make sure that our equation is in standard form, meaning that we are descending with our exponents. It does have to be equal to 0 in order to use the quadratic formula. If your b is already negative, remember the sign belongs to the number, then when you plug it in for negative b, it does become a positive b. The other thing to remember is that if I plug a negative in here for b squared, when I square a negative, it does become positive, so be careful of that. So what I'll have you do now is go on to the next video and watching that, where I will go through, I believe, the 4 examples. I think there are 4 of them that continue on your note sheet.